Hello everybody, this is NADA Report, and welcome back to the channel. It is now Central Time, Sunday, April 5th, 2026, and today we have got one hell of a story to talk about. Let me ask you something right out of the gate. What is whatever it takes actually worth in war? Because over the last 48 hours, the United States military appears to have answered that question in the most unapologetic way imaginable. On April 5th, military observers around the world were stunned. To recover one missing F-15E crewman trapped inside Iranian territory, the United States launched what may be one of the boldest combat rescue operations in recent memory. Two advanced HC-130J aircraft were abandoned and blown up on the ground. Elite Special Operations Forces were thrown into hostile territory. Attack helicopters, fixed-wing aircraft, intelligence assets, and covert networks all came alive at once, and all of it, every bit of it, was for one wounded American airman. Now, of course, the usual weak crowd is already whining. You know the type. The bean counters, the armchair critics, the people who have never worn a uniform, never stared death in the face, and never understood what makes a military feared instead of laughed at. They are already asking, was it too expensive? Was it reckless? Was it worth the cost? And my answer is simple. That question alone tells me you do not understand war. Because this is not just about money. It is not about replacing metal. It is not about protecting equipment. It is about whether the men and women you send into battle believe their country will come for them when hell opens up. And if they believe that, they fight differently. They fly differently. They endure differently. They win differently. That is what this story is really about. This was not a movie. This was not some polished Pentagon recruiting commercial. This was not Hollywood. This was blood, stone, darkness, deception, rotor wash, burning wreckage, and a race against time inside enemy territory. And it began on April 3rd. An American F-15E Strike Eagle was reportedly shot down while operating over Iran. Both crew members ejected. One was recovered relatively quickly. The other, the weapons systems officer, disappeared. Now stop and think about that. You are injured. You are alone. You are in enemy territory. You are on the ground in Iran. And somewhere out there are armed men hunting you down, with every reason in the world to capture you alive, or kill you where you stand. That is not a bad situation. That is a nightmare. But this man was not some random tourist who took a wrong turn. He was a trained American warfighter. He had gone through CSAR training, survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. That means when panic would break most people, training took over. Instead of running blindly, he reportedly climbed higher into rough mountain terrain, up to a cold, rocky ridgeline more than 2,000 meters above sea level. He found concealment in terrain so unforgiving that even aerial detection would have struggled to locate him quickly. And here is the part that tells you what kind of man we are talking about. He reportedly had access to an encrypted emergency locator. But he did not just smash the button the second he hit the ground. Why? Because he understood the danger. The moment a signal goes out, it may help friendly forces find you, but it can also help enemy forces narrow the search. So while lesser men would panic, this guy stayed disciplined. Wounded. Alone. Freezing. Hiding in rock and darkness. Listening to enemy vehicles below. Waiting. Calculating. Surviving. That is what real toughness looks like. Not slogans, not hashtags, not social media cosplay. The real thing. And just as Iranian forces were reportedly tightening the search, the adults entered the room. The CIA. Now this is where the story gets truly savage. because brute force alone was not the answer. If American forces had rushed in too soon, they could have gotten their own man killed in the crossfire. So instead, U.S. intelligence appears to have done what great intelligence services do. They manipulated the enemy's thinking. False information was pushed through local channels. Rumors were spread. The message was planted that the missing American had already been rescued and was being moved overland toward the border. And the Iranians bought it. Hook, line, and sinker. Instead of keeping maximum pressure on the mountain search area, they reportedly shifted substantial attention toward roads, border routes, and possible escape corridors. In other words, while Iran thought it was closing the trap, it was actually walking away from the target. That is not just smart, that is humiliating. This is what weak regimes never understand. Real military power is not just about missiles and speeches and chest-thumping propaganda. Real power means you can get inside your enemy's head, scramble his priorities, split his forces, and make him chase shadows while you execute the real mission. That is what happened here. Then came the rescue. This is where combat search and rescue, CSAR, stopped being a doctrine on paper and became flesh and blood. Elite American operators moved into hostile territory under cover of darkness. Rotary wing aircraft and fixed-wing assets coordinated in a dangerous, fast-moving rescue package. Attack helicopters stood ready overhead, prepared to smash any hostile element that came too close. This was not symbolic. This was not diplomatic theater. This was not some meaningless UN sermon about de-escalation. This was American power doing what American power is supposed to do. Go get our guy and bring him home. But then came the part that turned this mission from impressive into legendary. Two HC-130J aircraft operating from rough improvised ground got stuck. Their landing gear reportedly sank into soft sand or unstable terrain. Engines roared, props spun, but the planes were going nowhere. Now imagine that moment. You are in enemy territory. The clock is ticking. The rescue package is exposed. Hostile forces could be closing in, and two advanced aircraft are sitting there like giant dead weights in a kill zone. This is the point where weak commanders hesitate. This is the point where bureaucratic militaries start thinking about reports, audits, hardware losses, and tomorrow's headlines. But real warriors know something those people never will. Machines matter. Men matter more. And the call was made. Move the people. Blow the aircraft. Just like that. Two expensive, high-value, sophisticated aircraft turned into fireballs on the ground. And let me tell you something. That decision is exactly why the United States military still commands respect. Because the message was crystal clear. We are not losing operators to save equipment. We are not sacrificing Americans to protect inventory. We are not letting the enemy capture technology, personnel, or momentum. The aircraft can be replaced. The men cannot. That is not waste. That is clarity. That is leadership. That is moral seriousness under pressure. And yes, there will always be people who cry about the cost. There always are. These are the same people who think national defense is just an accounting exercise. The same people who believe strength can be measured on a spreadsheet. The same people who would probably leave a pilot behind, then hold a press conference about strategic restraint. That is loser thinking. A military built on loser thinking loses wars, but a military that tells every pilot, every crew chief, every special operator, every kid climbing into the cockpit, if you go down, we are coming for you. That military builds trust money cannot buy. That trust is combat power. That trust is morale. That trust is why men push forward when common sense says run. That trust is why elite forces exist in the first place. Eventually, backup aircraft arrived, the rescue package was completed, and the missing airman, along with the teams involved, was brought out. Mission accomplished. And let us be brutally honest here. There are a lot of countries that can hold parades. There are a lot of countries that can threaten their neighbors. There are a lot of regimes that can produce dramatic propaganda videos with missiles, flags, and angry music in the background. But when one isolated airman is trapped, wounded, and hunted inside hostile territory, very few nations on Earth can pull off a rescue like this. Very few have the intelligence capability. Very few have the command structure. Very few have the training. Very few have the nerve. That is just reality. This mission was not just about courage. It was not just about aircraft. It was not just about special operators. It was the entire American war machine working as one. Intelligence, deception, aviation, special operations, command and control, air cover, speed, precision. And above all, an iron principle that separates serious militaries from hollow ones. America does not leave its people behind. So was it worth it? If you are a coward, probably not. If you are a bureaucrat, probably not. If you are one of those media parasites who thinks weakness is wisdom, definitely not. But if you are the one strapping into a combat jet, or boarding a helicopter, or kicking into enemy territory at midnight, you already know the answer. Absolutely, because every American warfighter who hears this story understands the message. If you are still alive, they are coming. If they have to burn aircraft, they will burn aircraft. If they have to risk elite teams, they will risk elite teams. If they have to deceive, strike, and bulldoze through the fog of war to bring you home, that is exactly what they will do. And that message is worth more than any piece of hardware left sitting on a runway. That is why this rescue matters. It did not just save one man. It reinforced the bond between a nation and the warriors it sends into danger. That is not a small thing. That is everything. Now I want to hear from you. Was it worth destroying 2 aircraft to save 1 American airman? Would you have given that order? Or would you have hesitated and gambled with American lives? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you want more hard-hitting military analysis, no sugarcoating, no spin, no politically correct nonsense, hit like, subscribe, and share this video. This is NADA Report, and we will see you next time.